Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another video. Free to play, budget, Witchcrafter. This was one of my earlier fun decks. I've been, modifying it as I go along. I could tell you which cards to insert for because I've been playing a decent amount now, right? It's been about a month and a half I've been playing this game, 6 weeks. So I've accumulated some gems. I've got some like universal cards that I plug in to every deck. So that's probably why you see a bunch of URs in here that you may not have for this free-to-play version, and I'll give you alternates. And the extra deck for the Witchcrafters is not really their strongest suit because their boss monsters are all inside the main deck, and we'll go over that. But to begin, just to go through. So this is what I mean, like by free-to-play budget builds. So I use cards from solo mode, which include Raigeki, Monster Reborn. I believe there was one more. Rasterliger and Decode Talker, which I'm not using anymore. But basically, those are cards you should plug into every one of your decks because it's free. Why not? And then the 750 bundle packs, you can get Infinite Impermanence, Forbidden Droplet, you can get Lightning Storm, and Ash Blossom. So definitely pick those up. That's an investment. That's like 3,000 gems right there, but it's definitely worth it. You get 10 packs. So you can dismantle, whatever cards you don't need, and get some UR and SR from that as well. But definitely pick up those cards. You can just plug them into every deck that you have. Now, like I mentioned, I crafted DD Crow. This is just like a cheap hand trap you can make as well. Then we have 2 Witchcrafter Jennies, 2 Potteries, 1 Pitor, and 3 Shmieta. So these are your starter cards. So basically they all have the same effect where you contribute. So basically when it's after you normal summon, so your normal summon has to resolve. Good luck with that in competitive matches, but if you're able to resolve this normal summon, you can. So for example, they all have the same beginning text, that you discard 1 spell, special summon a Witchcrafter from your deck, and then their second effect just depends what happens in the graveyard. But basically, you normal summon any one of these starters, Jenny, Pottery, Pitor, or Shmieta, and you can special summon one of your big boss monsters from the deck, which are Golem Maruru, Madame Bear, and Hane. And you really want to focus on Hane and Madame Bear. And we'll get to that in a minute. But basically, her second effect, you can banish this card in 1 Witchcrafter spell from the grave. This effect becomes that spell's effect when that card is activated. So Witchcrafters is all about spells. So you have these creation spells. Not to go through all this right now, but basically you have a bunch of Witchcrafter spells that basically run your engine, and this can copy one of the spells that's already in the grave, and then make it like you use the spell again. So you get another use out of spells in the grave with her. Pottery, her second effect is if you have no cards in your hand, you can banish the card, this monster from the grave, and then target a Witchcrafter card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So it's not saying particularly a spell, so you could pull a monster from the grave too with Pottery. So, like I said, if you're considering which ones to run more of, Pottery has a decent effect, so you could run 3 of her. Pitori, on the other hand, is kind of situational. You can banish this card, draw 1 card, and then send a Witchcrafter card from your hand to the grave. Or if you have none, banish your entire hand. So it's kind of a risky one to play. I mean, if you're desperate and you need to make a play, this can definitely work. But I'm only running 1 of Pitor. Shimeta is probably your best starter because the second effect is you can banish this from the grave and send a Witchcrafter from your deck to the grave. So what that means is while you bring one of these, you could basically bring one of these spells to the grave, and what happens is, since you're special summoning a Witchcrafter, all of these, like if you see at the bottom, not at the bottom, sorry, in the middle, during your end phase, if you control a Witchcrafter while this card is in your grave, you could add this card back to your hand. So you basically get a spell back. So she special summons one of your bosses, then a spell goes into your grave, and by the end phase, so not during, you won't have it for your battle phase, but in your end phase, this will come back into your hand. Well, one of these Witchcrafter spells. So it's a nice like recursion effect. Adele is like a enabler, I guess. I don't really know the technical term, but basically you can discard a spell and special summon one of your boss monsters from your hand, which is nice. Astrograph, you could probably ignore this. I added him in because I just love his animation. So you could just plug him in for, say, another Heine. I actually have another Heine. I may replace Sorcerer with Heine, just because, say Heine is in your grave or banished, and she's your best negator. Her effect is your opponent cannot target other spellcaster monsters you control with card effects. So that's a nice effect. And also you could discard a spell and destroy one of your opponent's face-up cards. I have a cheap Kaiju in here, which you should definitely run. Then Madame Bear, the best card in this deck, besides Golem Aruru. Basically, if you have her on the field and one of your other monsters is battling, you can reveal any number of spells, and it doesn't have to be Witchcrafter spells. That's the cool part. Any number of spells in your hand, and the monster gains 1,000 attack and defense for each card. And then it also has a quick effect. You can discard a spell and negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent controls. So really nice effects if you can get her on field, obviously, which the starters will have to do for you. Now Golem Aruru, so you probably don't want to special summon Golem Aruru because her best effect is in your hand. It's basically like a compulsory evacuation, but from your hand. So when your opponent targets one of your monsters, you can just put them back into your hand and get Golem on your field, which is really cool. I'll showcase some gameplay highlighting all these effects. And then one of my favorite cards I plug into every deck. Iris Sword Soul. You can plug this in with an additional spell, an additional copy of one of the starters. But if you have UR, feel free to get her. She's awesome. Because she special summons when a monster is negated on the field. So that could be your monsters, opponent monsters, just really handy. This is another starter spell. You just add a Witchcrafter to your hand. Ideally, you want to target Golem Maruru with the creation spell, so you have her in your hand. Holiday, target a Witchcrafter in your grave and special summon. So you could either use this in conjunction with Shmeta, or if your monster just happens to be in the grave, you can just bring it back. Collaboration. It's kind of a niche card, but I just run it because I like having options. Otherwise you could just discard this spell and use it for a discard. But basically, you target a Witchcrafter, you can make a second attack, and if it attacks this turn, your opponent can't activate spells or traps until the end of the damage step. So it can protect you from like Mirror Force, cards like that. So that's nice. And you typically use this on like Golem or Heine to give them a little boost. And we talked about Lightning Storm from the bundle. Magician Right Hand. I run this, I don't always draw it, but when you do and you have monsters on the field, because these are all spellcasters, besides the Kaiju, of course, who goes in the opponent's field. But this definitely helps. Resolves the first spell card or effect each turn. So your mileage may vary, but I think it's a nice spell to have. Buy Street is a continuous spell that you could run. First time each Witchcrafter you control be destroyed by battle or card effect, it is not. And then if you have a discard effect, you can send this card down too. And then during end phase, it has another effect. So it's all around a nice card. You could possibly run 2 of these to make sure you get it in place of, say, like this card. But that's your call. Witchcrafter Scroll, another continuous. It's kind of situational. When your spellcaster destroys a monster, you can draw a card. And this has the discard effect and then the graveyard effect that Buy Street had. Super Poly, I just had the UR crafting mats to add this in. It's really situational here, because especially for Witchcrafters, they're not really relying on the extra deck. So this is probably one of the easier URs to take out of here. And either you ideally want to add a spell back in here. So for example, another Witchcrafter spell, or you have right hand, maybe you add left hand. I just kind of plug this into each of my decks. It's probably not the best card for this deck. I will in the future probably remove this and Starving Venom Fusion, because how often am I gonna see play for this? Witchcrafter Draping, it's a quick play. You can target spells or traps your opponent controls up to the number of Witchcrafter monsters and return them to the hand. So that's nice. Not the best, but it's nice. And this lets you special summon a Witchcrafter from your hand. Your opponent cannot they can't ash you. So this is a nice, like, if you want to run 2 of anything, this would be nice to run 2 of. I'd probably remove this and this to run 2 of these special summon spells. let's just do that now. And get rid of this guy. And this guy. So, droplets, as I said, always useful. Infinite impermanence, always useful. Masterpiece. So these traps are not as strong as the other spells, but you know, it's always nice to have some traps, right? So we got if you control a Witchcrafter monster or target a spell in either graveyard, add one card with the same name from your deck to your hand. So it's kind of situational, but you could bring a spell back to your hand as long as you have a duplicate in your deck. And then also has a secondary effect. You can banish this card and any number of spells from your grave. Special summon a Witchcrafter from your deck whose level equals the number of spells banished. So highly situational, but you know, you can bring back a level 4 probably easily, or a level 3, or even a level 1. There you go, look, you got a level 1. All you gotta do is banish one spell. Solemn Warning I got from a pack, but you know, you could replace this with Solemn Judgment that you get from the bundles. Definitely should run one of these. And then the Continuous Trap, I run 2 of these. I could probably take out one, but I like to see it. You can target one of your spellcaster monsters that is banished or in your grave, shuffle it into the deck, and if you do, add a spell, a Witchcrafter spell from your deck to your hand. And then has a secondary effect to recur banished Witchcrafter spells. So it has a really nice effect. So that's why I run 2 of these, just to make sure I see it. But you know, if you draw 2, you could always use the other for a discard effect. And there you go. You know, my extra deck, as I said, is not as important for Witchcrafters because they mainly rely on getting Heine, Madame Vare on the field, and Golem in the hand to just control the opponent. You know, opponent can't do much. You can't target spellcasters. You can negate effects of all face-up monsters, and you know, you could return a card to the hand anytime they try and attack you. So overall, you know, if you're not negated yourself by the opponent's non-targeting effects, I guess that's the only like weakness of this, because you know, you can't target with card effects, but I guess if it's non-targeting, you know, you'll be kind of screwed. But then I guess in that case, then you can rely on some of your link monsters to do some of the work. So I run a bunch of Charmers here because I have Charmer decks. I run Appaloosa, Breathlegger, who's free, and Access Code, who I highly recommend you craft. The level 4s are hard to figure out here. Extra deck. I have Utopia from the structure deck, Super Quantum Mecha Beast. I mean, these are just, you know, the cheapest level 4s you can get. Malevolent Sin, Magistus. She could special summon level 4 or higher spellcasters in your grave. Exorcister, she can return an opponent monster to the hand. Then you got the Fire Charmers who can steal monsters, and you know, your typical end game link monsters. If you know, you feel the need, you know, like access codes, card removal effects. So there's Witchcrafters. So I did not have ranked gameplay to show you guys, but we'll jump into a solo game for you guys, just to showcase what they're capable of. So hopefully I don't get destroyed in this match. I'm actually able to showcase things for you. target whatever this is. Alright, let's go. Alright, decent hand. Alright, so if you place this down first, you get an extra effect, so I will do that. Let's get Jenny in there. So I will discard the holiday. And special summon signing. That'll be the turn 1 play. And since I have a Witchcrafter on the field, I'm able to bring this card back. There you go. So you can discard a spell and target a monster, so why not? Because I can always get that spell back. And I forgot they could pendulum summon. Okay. You're still doing it. Yes, we are. Alright, so this will be the play. First, we get rid of their back row. Then, front row. That's why these cards are so valuable. Now, what is the effect? Ah, you can manage this card and copy a card's effects. So, I can special summon Heine back. Now, I can't tribute this card, but I'll just summon it. And links will not be helpful here. So let's just now, let's get to the end phase. Oh no, I banished that spell. No plays here. Okay, so we have creation. So let's add a monster. Let's add a golem. Now this golem is my insurance policy. Normal summoning would take 2 tributes and that's not worth it. So she's just my insurance in case they attack me. But I'll probably end this right now. Yep, that's game. Well, there you go. I didn't even get to bring out Madame Bear. But that is Witchcrafters, ladies and gentlemen. I will keep bringing you more budget builds. As I said, get the bundles. There's barely any URs and SRs in Witchcrafters. It's super cheap, so make it, but keep your expectations in check. This is not super competitive. I used to run this with Invoked. That helped a little bit, but also made it brick a little bit, so your mileage may vary, but I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.